Who is Fatburger CEO and convicted felon Andrew Wiederhorn, and what is he accused of now? With over 55 years of history in the food industry, billing itself as the last great hamburger stand, and has become an African-American cultural icon, who wouldn't know about Fatburger? But do you know who Fatburger CEO is? And was he really a convicted felon? And what is he accused of now? Luckily for you, Fortune Fastlaner, if you haven't heard this story or you want to know what really happened, this video is for you. For the past several years, Fatburgers has suffered from poor operational performance and financial uncertainty. This was mainly due to high transaction cost, a lack of seasonal offerings, and low customer satisfaction. Unfortunately, in 2017, it hit rock bottom with rising competition from other chain restaurants and layoffs. With lowered consumer trust, fast food giants became unhealthy for investors who lost nearly $30 billion over the past 3 months. The Fatburger chain traces its roots to 1952 Southern California, when Lovie Yancey named her new restaurant after her burger-loving boyfriend's nickname, Mr. Fatburger. Over the next 40 years, she opened 32 owned and franchise stores around Los Angeles. At age 78, Yancey sold a majority of their poster board chains for $3 million to a British record producer. Magic Johnson took ownership of a Fatburger in 2000 due to the overwhelming success of opening 15 restaurants. But this came with donations from celebrity friends and shareholders. Johnson started with his 100 stores goal, which opened new locations across the country. The investment was a bust. Sales fell from a reported $33 million to $20 million in 2 years. In 2003, Johnson gave up and sold out to Andrew Wiederhorn. Wiederhorn got his start purchasing foreclosed assets from Resolution Trust Corporation in the early 1990s. However, bad bets on subprime mortgages forced his company into bankruptcy, and in 1999, he defaulted on loans worth $160 million he had taken from Capital Consultants, a Portland pension fund advisor that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. As the Justice Department built a case around his alleged role in the scandal, Wiederhorn financed the $8 million Fatburger management buyout in 2003. The deal gave Wiederhorn's publicly held investing company, Fugcutter Capital Group, an 83% share in Fatburger. Wiederhorn convinced the board to change his contract so he couldn't be fired even if convicted of a felony. The change came in handy when in June of 2004, Wiederhorn pleaded guilty to providing an illegal gratuity and filing a false tax return. He had committed the crimes at a previous company, Wilshire Credit. A day before his plea deal, Fugcutter modified their contract in order to compensate Wiederhorn for the punishment imposed by U.S. authorities. The new negotiated terms not only surpassed the $2 million fine but more than covered it. In 2005, after Wiederhorn was caught embezzling money, he was jailed for 10 months and then allowed to come back when 15% of his company was sold. In 2006, the company finally admitted that these decisions were made with fraud as they bought back 5% shares as part of their bailout plan, with fraudulent surplus created from acquired companies. Despite claims to the contrary, celebrities seem intent on sticking with Fatburger chains. Orlando Brown, who played for the Baltimore Ravens, signed on in 2006 as a spokesperson for a company that went on to have outlets around DC. And Pharrell Williams bought into the Fatburger restaurant chain in 2015. But Wiederhorn claims he could get away with it because in regards to the current Fatburger contract, he's not immune from its wrongdoing provisions. It's very easy for a chain to change the clauses of their franchise agreement at any time. Now, material from FBI and Securities and Exchange Commission filings indicate that their investigation is part of a larger inquiry into allegations of securities and wire fraud, money laundering, and attempted tax evasion. During the probe, Brooke Wiederhorn was reportedly awoken by 2 federal agents and told to get out of bed and rest. Agents on the scene were wearing vests after disabling the air conditioning, smoke, and fire alarms before entering their home. Though it's stated that Brooke's last name is never disclosed in court, records reviewed by The Times, she's the oldest daughter of actress and erstwhile Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kim Richards, and her 2014 nuptials to Thayer were chronicled on the Bravo reality TV show. Agents hauled away phones, digital storage devices, and tax documents from a couple's residence in the first week of July as part of what federal prosecutors termed as an ongoing high-aggressiveness law enforcement campaign. Federal investigators have allegedly been watching the elder Wiederhorn for quite some time. They have been monitoring and following him as he walks his dogs. There does not seem to be mention of whether police from last year's raid on the Beverly Hills property went with search warrants in hand. In November, an affidavit outlining the FBI's investigation revealed that Wiederhorn, 56, had devised a fraudulent scheme to avoid paying taxes and received millions of dollars in sham loans through his two defunct companies that are now under criminal investigation. Last week, the court filed an affidavit that described years of credit card charges and bank transactions by Brent Wiederhorn, as well as family members. The affidavit included transactions made to make a down payment on a Rolls-Royce, $100,000 at a Beverly Hills divorce lawyer, and thousands at a London jeweler. In a legal filing, Wiederhorn was accused of improperly generating millions of American Express reward points by routing company money through his son's PayPal account. While the agent wouldn't say whether or not they planned to make an arrest, they did conclude there was probable cause that Wiederhorn engaged in the following criminal conduct, including tax offenses, mispresentations to investors, fraud offenses relating to personal expenses that Wiederhorn caused Fat to pay. The status of the investigation is unclear. No charges have been filed against any person or against Fat Brands, of which Wiederhorn is the largest shareholder. Wiederhorn's attorney, Douglas Fuchs of Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, responded to the government's accusations late Friday. Wiederhorn's lawyer's statement: Mr. Wiederhorn categorically denies these allegations, and at the appropriate time, we will demonstrate that the government has its facts wrong. These loans were completely legitimate and were independently reviewed and approved. In addition, Mr. Wiederhorn's tax returns were prepared and approved by independent tax professionals, and he has been making payments under a plan approved by the IRS, said Eric Fuchs on Wednesday in a statement. While our request to see an affidavit went unanswered, we can comment on its contents. The government claims it does not have a copy of their own affidavit due to difficulties retrieving emails from the many different devices of those who may have sent it, encrypting the document and meeting other legal measures in time for the beginning litigations. They have only asked others surrounding file leaks to withhold what knowledge they possess on any testimony-related issue. A spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles refused to comment. However, a spokeswoman for the FBI office in Los Angeles could not confirm or deny an investigation. Fat Brands announces that it's cooperating with the government investigation, but also that it will be shareholding at its next monthly meeting. However, the federal criminal spiral is nothing new to Wiederhorn. 20 years ago, he was brought up on criminal charges. In 2004, Wiederhorn pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court in Oregon to charges of paying an illegal gratuity to an associate and also falsifying a tax return by transporting cash-stuffed suitcases. He spent 15 months in federal prison in Sheridan, Orr, and paid a $2 million fine. After pleading guilty, the company he led, Fugcutter Capital, awarded him a $2 million bonus and agreed to keep paying him during his incarceration. However, New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof awarded Wiederhorn the inaugural award for greed, writing, "I can't think of a board that has ever so disgraced the principles of corporate governance by overpaying a CEO even as he sits in prison." However, Wiederhorn's attempt to restore his name came about with a PR-worthy stunt on an episode of Undercover Boss. The franchise owner agreed to let him and his family guest team during his busiest time span without asking any questions. Wiederhorn could identify flaws in regards to training, quality control, financial stability, and customer satisfaction. "I've always adamantly denied doing anything wrong intentionally," Wiederhorn told The Times in 2017. "I'm very grateful for it. I felt like I paid the fine. I did the time. I did everything I was supposed to do to make this go away and put it behind me." That interview came just before Wiederhorn took Fat Brands public with the goal of inflating from nearly 300 restaurants globally to 500 in the US and overseas. The company has since grown to over 2,000 outlets, mostly as franchises, by acquiring Twin Peaks, Fazoli's, Round Table Pizza, and Marble Slab Creamery, among other brands. Wiederhorn also considered buying Del Taco, but he couldn't find that level of convenient product when comparing trying to push it out through social media or even hiring people to do it. In June 2021, a shareholder lawsuit filed against Fat Brands in Delaware accused Wiederhorn of looting the company and bleeding it of its cash. The suit referenced loans issued to him that were later forgiven and numerous members of Wiederhorn's family who were on the payroll earning six-figure salaries. The attorneys for Wiederhorn and the company aren't having it. Their counsel claims that this lawsuit is completely baseless. It's unclear what prompted the recent investigation by the FBI, whose agents appear to have pored over Wiederhorn's banking, loan, and tax records. The investigative process has not been confirmed as legal. The IRS claimed that Wiederhorn filed a false tax return in 2018. This was shown by discrepancies between loan applications for the year. According to their filing, Mr. Wiederhorn's income in 2018 was reported to be $403,311, but reports from 2017 show that his income from loans was only $395,508. That was impressive. For perspective, in 2018, he reports that his $2.4 million per year covers mortgage payments on a $1 million San Francisco house and car loans of about $100,000. The affidavit is a dramatic depiction of Wiederhorn's luxurious lifestyle as the Art Institute protest described. It saw no minimum payment amounts, but he did accrue $718,026 in interest and penalties while going unpaid over the course of 10 years. Although Wiederhorn is airing this infidelity on her personal blog, since last year, no one can call or ask the new life owners of Airbnb if they have paid any tax liability that would prompt investigations. Wiederhorn has entered into several so-called installment agreements to pay back taxes. As of November 2021, Wiederhorn owes more than $3 million in personal income taxes, penalties, and interest. The FBI agent outlined how he believes Wiederhorn converted money from Fat Brands and its affiliates via credit cards, showing purchases at Dolce and Gabbana, Giorgio Armani, and Restoration Hardware. With the card feature Wiederhorn created, employees can authorize certain charges. But even though all these expenses are technically personal in nature, they were reported on the company's tax return and included household expenses like pet care or groceries paid by an employee using their own direct deposit account. From October 2017, the date of Fat Brand's prior public offering, to May 2019, about $5 million from the company or its subsidiaries went to cover various Wiederhorn credit card balances, according to a court filing. A new case opens with a claim that Thayer Wiederhorn, an executive at a popular clothing brand, helped run a scheme to route tens of millions of dollars through American Express revolving account to his father's PayPal account. Cash purchases were made in small amounts and ended up on the Wiederhorn family's joint credit cards. The account under Mr. Wiederhorn's name was then used for hotel and shop purchases as well as credit card charges. The court records describe the scheme as round-trip transactions, with money traveling from the younger Wiederhorn's PayPal account back to Fat or its subsidiaries. Up to $600,000 went through a process of being deposited into his Bank of America accounts and then transferred all over the world, with money slowly moving back to his PayPal account. The FBI agent tabulated a cost more than $250,000 in fees to PayPal out of about $9 million that traveled round-trip. The FBI is not accused of any criminal wrongdoing, nor is there an investigation into the examination charges or the con connection. However, the United States Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Pennsylvania decided to file a misappropriation of funds charge on Wiederhorn last week. The charges allege that Wiederhorn spent $250,000 in transaction fees without any legitimate corporate business purpose in order to further his fraudulent scheme. In addition, Wiederhorn has one of the most impressive houses in Portland. The Spanish colonial desert-style mansion is 20,000 square feet, taking up 3 lots that are all purchased on vintage coal. The sale may be the final act in the scandalous financial history of Wiederhorn's time here, a story that includes fraud, a trip to federal prison, and a lot of empty-handed investors. Wiederhorn grew up in Portland, but since 2009 has lived in California, where his primary investment in the Fatburger fast food chain is headquartered. He now lives in a Beverly Hills home and is philosophical about the foreclosure. "I haven't lived in the house for 5 years," he says of the Portland mansion, "and my family's been out of it for 4 years. I'm looking forward to not paying the utilities, he adds. Everything about the house is outsized. It's got 10 bedrooms, an indoor basketball court with an ornate W printed on the floor, a 2,000 square foot pool house, and a 5-car garage. Property taxes are $115,000 a year. A decade after his company went public, Wiederhorn paid $1.5 million for the Southwest Greenleaf Drive property in Santa Cruz, previously owned by Sequent Computer Systems co-founder Casey Powell. In 1997, Wiederhorn was considered a business phenomenon with his company. Wilshire Financial Services Group bought loans that had gone bad at deep discounts and made profits from the stock market. At 32 years old, he held an estimated $140 million worth of shares in the company and played in a professional soccer league. Wiederhorn says he plowed another $10 to the Portland house, renovating and expanding it for his wife Tiffany and 6 children. Last year, Wiederhorn appeared on a TV episode of CBS's Undercover Boss and portrayed himself as an intentional benevolent CEO who had been tripped up by bad legal advice. His portrayal did actually happen, and he was going to implement the changes needed to make the work environment better for employees. While Wiederhorn claims he only cares about business, Union President Tom Chamberlain states in the New York Times that employees and retirees are still suffering. That's it for this video, Fortune Fastlaner. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and if you feel like we've delivered value, please share this video with one person. That's right, just one person as a token of your appreciation for the hard work we put into making content that educates and helps you on your mission of building your own fortune. Remember, you can watch video after video, but it isn't until you actually take action that you'll start to see results. See you soon!